And today finds me in northwest Connecticut in Litchfield County. We're standing on the Bulls Bridge, which is an old covered bridge across the Housatonic River here. And we're going to spend about 6 hours up on the Appalachian Trail on what's called Schaghticoke Mountain. And this is about where the Appalachian Trail enters the state of Connecticut, just a few miles from the New York border. And the Bulls Bridge here crosses over a chasm in the Housatonic River. And spectacular rapids here. Kayakers use this in the spring, and wouldn't be surprised to see some out here today, even though it's mid-March and with snow on the ground. The water is unfrozen and probably runnable. So we'll keep an eye out for kayakers here. The river is diverted here for power generation. So this is not all the water coming through this chasm here, but we're going to take a better look at this chasm, and then about a half a mile of road walking on the Appalachian Trail will lead us to about 1,000-foot elevation gain up on Schaghticoke Mountain, where it appears to be there's several natural overlooks. We'll see how far we can get on that trail today and see how much we can see in this chasm as well. And just a short distance from the Bulls Bridge, there are several small trails that lead to different sets of rapids in the Housatonic River here. And with plenty of rain and snow melt in mid-March here, there's plenty of water coming down. And I'm going to be recording for my other channel here as well today. The other channel is called Barkin' Up the Right Tree, B-A-R-K-I-N apostrophe up the right tree, because I was here last summer and found a bunch of chinkapin oak where it's near the edge of its geographic range. And we actually have a fairly thick layer of marble that the Housatonic River has eroded away to form these rapids. And it sparkles like rocks that have harder minerals in them, and could be mistaken for a granite or a granitic gneiss that are common in this area, but I can easily scratch this marble with my pocket knife. It's given way quite easily, just like a limestone would. So that and the geology maps hinted me into the fact that this is marble in this valley, but Schaghticoke Mountain itself is a much harder and much older rock. So we'll be starting to look for those white blazes on the Appalachian Trail just around the corner here, and we should get some nice views as we climb up to the top. And just a few hundred yards up from that flume we just recorded, we do have the official trailhead for the Appalachian Trail here, the little kiosk. And I could say over my years of hiking, I've probably done about 200 miles of it. Quite a bit in the Smoky Mountain area, quite a bit in Vermont and western Massachusetts and Connecticut here, but I've never actually done this Schaghticoke Mountain before, so this will be a new section for me. We have the trail register here, and you know what? If you made it this far as a thru hiker, you've come about 2/3 the way from Springer Mountain, Georgia, to the official endpoint at Mount Katahdin, Maine. And I have run into those thru hikers up here in August, especially when they're you know, making their way. And there's a lot of bigger mountains north of here. This is very rocky through here, but not that high of elevation. But a lot of these guys need to make it up to Mount Katahdin by late September to avoid the severe winter weather that occurs in that area early in the fall. And the parking by the Bulls Bridge, covered bridge, has room for about 20 cars. That's why I chose to park there, but it is requiring about 15 minutes of road walking here, folks. We cross the bridge, turn right on Schaghticoke Road, and we're getting a nice view of Schaghticoke Mountain itself. And I had to look up the pronunciation. It's got a lot more letters than it sounds like, but plenty of ledge up there. and should be some nice open views. The trail itself goes by several viewpoints north of here, and we'll see if we can get some views near the trail on the southern part of Schaghticoke Mountain here. I don't have time to do the whole thing today. We're going to go out about 2.5 hours and then just have to turn around. And we've come about 5 minutes from the Appalachian Trail, departing from the road section of Schaghticoke Road. And well-built trail, not too steep, nice and switchbacked. And there's a little mountain stream coming down here with all kinds of boulders. And since we mentioned the marble that the Housatonic River has sliced through down below there, the next layer up in the geological sandwich here is common throughout western New England and common throughout upstate New York. And it's just slightly older than that marble. And this is a quartzite, or a sandstone that's been recrystallized. And boy, it will not give way like that marble does to the efforts of my scratching with this steel pocket knife. And we get the sun to hit it. It's a little sparkly. So it's made of quartz grains and a quartz sandstone, and slightly metamorphosed during mountain building. And it's common around the edge of the Adirondack Park. The Ausable Chasm is the same rock that we're looking at here. And several of the falls on the northwest side of the Adirondacks in upstate New York, just a couple hundred miles from here. So this bed of sandstone is common throughout the Appalachian Mountains, usually near the bottom of the mountains. And the older rocks that have broke up through it and have sit below it geologically, but are usually higher up on the mountain, are even much older. And these sand grains are the remains of those mountains when they were still much taller. So quite a history to be found in these mountains if you know the geology and if you're curious about it. Good books about it are hard to find sometimes. The ones that make it clear to the non-geologists are hard to find, but they are out there, and that's where I've learned it over the years. And we'll just enjoy the gentle scenery on the lower half of Schaghticoke Mountain here. There's a lot of big boulders and that have tumbled down the mountain and probably got moved around by ice sheets as well. Some of these are about the size of a house, so that in itself I find quite interesting. And we're into the older layer above that quartzite or sandstone. And these rocks that the mountain is formed from are Precambrian, and this is the layer that forms the Shenandoah National Park, the Hudson Highlands just west of here, near West Point, New York, are made of the same aged rock. And in those particular areas, the marble and that quartzite we looked at here is also in view. Natural Bridge, Virginia, just west of Shenandoah National Park, is a natural bridge where a stream is actually tunneled through that layer of limestone and marble that correlates with the marble we just saw by Bull's Bridge, covered bridge. Yeah, some really big rocks back here. It's kind of like a rock garden. We'll poke around. Maybe there's a few porcupines hanging out in here. And if there are, we can easily tell by what they've done to the smaller trees. They don't cut them down like a beaver, but they do chew on the bark. And sure enough, just underneath this fallen tree, we get a chance to walk right between some of these house-sized boulders. And yes, they're probably 25, 30 feet high. And probably just a piece of Schaghticoke Mountain that's broken free and got moved by gravity and by ice sheets. This one here is huge, shaped like a pyramid. And this one behind me is almost as tall, and boy, on a day with fresh snow and sun, everything looks pretty. Mother Nature's put frosting on the cake, and for a person who likes to make videos or photographs, frosting on the cake makes for a real nice day. And this is almost entirely hardwood trees up here, which makes for great views as you ascend Schaghticoke Mountain, even before you get to the ledges and the open views. It's been a pleasure every step of this hike with the new snow and the constant views through the trees. I haven't done that many hikes on this channel with fresh snow. So I haven't done a lot with animal tracks, but that's what's here today. Right next to my tracks are some tracks. And this guy, pretty nimble animal, went right up this boulder here. I mean, we got the trail where they built steps through this ledge, but obviously he's got more interest in climbing up this boulder, 3-foot hop, either up or down, and continued near the trail here for a distance. Let's see if we can identify these tracks. I'm going to assume this is not somebody's dog that has come out here and left tracks. I'm assuming this is from a canine. And we'll pause just a minute and put a coin in there for scale. And there's a U.S. currency coin for scale. We've got a paw print there, about 1.5 inches in size. And continues along here. I'm assuming it's from a coyote or a fox and not from a bobcat, but I'm not an expert on tracking, so I will leave that understood, and we'll continue to look for tracks in the snow. Seen quite a few deer tracks in the snow. Those are easy to tell, but that may be an opportunity on this hike that I don't often get, because once the snow gets crunchy and walked on, it's hard to find the tracks. And about 3/4 of a mile from where you leave the Schaghticoke Road, you get plenty of easy switchbacks on your way up Schaghticoke Mountain. We're about 2/3 the way up in elevation gain. The summit's at 1,300 feet and the base is about 400 feet, so almost 1,000 foot in elevation gain. Rocky the whole way up, but not steep. Plenty of switchbacks, plenty of rock water bars to divert the runoff, so it doesn't create big trenches in the Appalachian Trail. As we could see from the start of this hike, there's plenty of open ledge on the south face of this mountain, and probably gets regular brush fires. I see some evidence of it right here, some charred trees here, and I believe there's an open ledge right down here where we can get a really nice view. The view's been pretty good through the trees the whole way up. Got some charred wood right here. I'm assuming this was an oak tree. It's mostly oak and hickory up here. And the oaks with the thicker bark, like the chestnut oak, are less likely to perish from a brush fire. And the white oak, northern red oak, are less protected. We'll scramble through these boulders and begin recording again in just a second. And plenty of game trails through here as well. I think we got a white-tailed deer trail here, right here. It's Melted off just enough today. It's hard to see the bottom of the footprints. We're on the southeast facing slope here, so it melts off quicker and sooner than the flatter and north facing slopes. So we'll keep looking for tracks today. I think once we get off the sunny side of the mountain, we'll be able to find fresher tracks that haven't melted. Oh, it's a nice open ledge here. Feels a lot warmer even on a chilly day, and has almost a complete view here. We're going to scramble down one more lip of rock here, and I think we'll have the view we're really looking for. And about 3 or 4 ledge lips down, it kind of breaks in chunks, and you got to climb down a few feet. And this is a dome of older rocks here, so it tends to break off in pieces like the layers of an onion in places. Domes of rock often do that. We got a nice big slab here with a pretty good view to the southeast, and relatively warm compared to the surrounding countryside, and great place for me to bask. And I would not take the chance of coming down off the trail like this in the spring or fall, when the rattlesnakes that are common in this area would be using this as possibly a den site or a basking site. I don't know if there's a den right here, but this is a great candidate spot for a rattlesnake den. It's got plenty of areas with no trees where they can come out and get sun to warm up in the spring and in the fall when the weather is cool at night and warm during the day. And in the summer, they tend to spread all over the place. You're less likely to find them at the den site, although the females tend to stay near the den sites and the males will wander. So rattlesnakes are part of nature. There's plenty of acorns and hickory nuts up here for the rodents to eat. And the rattlesnakes do help keep the rodent populations under control, and they're not aggressive by nature. But there was no official herd trail or, obvious trail down here except for the game trails itself. I'm only a couple hundred yards from the Appalachian Trail here. And usually if an overlook is really well known, there's obvious trails from it. So this is a lesser known overlook, but we're looking south towards Fairfield County, Connecticut here. And we can't quite see the Bulls Bridge covered bridge, but I can see the little town of Bulls Bridge, which is only a handful of buildings. And the Housatonic River above the power dam and above the rapids at Bulls Bridge covered bridge. So our hike started just pretty much just about in the center of the screen here. I can actually see the parking lot from here because I know where to look. And I've made it up here in less than 2 hours, and I probably spent 45 minutes of that time recording videos, and I'm going to continue on for at least another hour and look for more overlooks, boulder gardens, animal tracks, and whatever else comes along. And we've done most of the ascending on Schaghticoke Mountain here, and plenty of large oak trees up here. More northern red oak than chestnut oak, and more northern red than scarlet oak. And these northern reds have just a very impressive crown sometimes. They get really big and really large crowns. And the further north you go on the Appalachian Trail, the northern red is the last oak that you will find. The white oak and the scarlet oak and the black oak don't make it into northern New England except in the lowest elevations. And northern red will come up in elevation quite a bit if the habitat is right. Eventually you get into what's just called northern hardwoods as you get up into the higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire. But northern red is a pretty common tree along the whole length of the Appalachian Trail, and I'm just admiring the graceful beauty of these crowns as we near the top of this mountain. And from the satellite view, I believe there's going to be a few more overlooks. The well-known overlooks near the town of Kent are beyond my day hike distance today. I'd have to do a one-way hike to get to those and wouldn't have time to do the return loop I'd have to set up a shuttle, which I didn't try to do today. I often do that with canoe trips, and even with hikes, with leaving a bicycle at one end. Didn't try to do that today though, so we'll be turning around in the next half hour, 45 minutes here, but we will be looking for more views before we do that. And less than 2 miles from that trail kiosk by the Bulls Bridge, covered bridge in Rapids, we're not at the highest point of Schaghticoke Mountain, but we're at the south end of the mountain here, where you can see east, south, and I believe we're going to get a southwest view as well. Let's take a look. The vegetation is getting real scrubby and scraggly. Obviously this area we'd be prone to brush fires and thin soil, so the trees can't grow too fast. Even got a little bit of bare oak growing up here. That's evidence of full sun and generations of full sun. If an area's had mature woods and becomes cleared from a tornado or a windstorm, you don't always get bare oak. It shows up and lives in areas that have always had either partial or full sun, which is these ledgy, rocky areas, especially the ones that face south and southwest. So here we go. Let's see how far we can see today. There's no haze. So the only thing that's going to limit our visibility is what mountains are blocking our view, and not the actual air quality. Yes, plenty of bare oak here. And plenty of views, boy. We're looking pretty much due south now, towards Danbury, Connecticut. Candlewood Lake is just south of here, but you can't see the lake from here. At least I can't see it. If we can get a westerly view, the Hudson Valley isn't far from here, and the Catskill Mountains would be in view if we can get to that point of the hike. But in the meantime, let's just soak up what's here. And this is wide open ledge here. And a great place to come on a cooler day and not overheat. It'd be a good place to warm up on a colder day. On a hot day, it would be hot. As I mentioned at one of the other stops, these mountains are, they're not known for their rattlesnakes, but the rattlesnakes are here, and people that hike the Appalachian Trail through Connecticut in the summer often see them. And they're not aggressive by nature. They're not looking for trouble, but this is where you would find them basking in the cooler weather, and in the hot weather they tend to stay in the shade. So let's keep on walking and see if we can get a view even further west to the 4,000 foot elevation Catskill Mountains, which aren't that far from here. And we've come about a half-mile north from the main overlook there, and that main ledge that has the trail right to it, and we're off trail again. Looking for a view to the west. I'm trying to get a nice view of the Catskill Mountains since it's such a clear day. They're about 40 miles from here, but easily visible on a day this clear. Pitch pine. Pitch pine tends to grow on open ledges and in really sandy soils. And I'm just a couple hundred feet from the Appalachian Trail, but I'm seeing these pitch pines on the west face of this Schaghticoke Mountain, thinking I might be able to get a view of the Catskills from here. And I can already see them through the treetops. I'm trying to get a more expansive view to put on this video series. So let's see if this hunch of mine bears some fruit here. Speaking of bearing fruit, this whole mountaintop is covered with low bush blueberry. So come up here in July and early August and feast on the berries, and try to beat the bears and the other animals to them. Well, there's our pitch pine. We'll pause for a second. I'm going to need both hands to scramble down here. And my hunch is paid off. These pitch pines are perched on the top of a sloping ledge here that has enough bare rock that nothing is tall enough growing on this ledge to block our view. And we've got a really nice view to the west here. And Yes, the Catskill Mountains stick up much higher than the other mountains in the Hudson Valley. It's called the Hudson Valley, but it isn't very flat. It's rolling to steep hillsides even around Poughkeepsie. The area around West Point and Bear Mountain is very mountainous. And really doesn't flatten out till you get up around Albany. Even that isn't that flat. I do not have the map of New York State memorized, but I could probably assume we're looking at the area around Overlook Mountain. Straight to our west here, that's over 3,000 feet. And there's a little pause in the gap in the mountains, and just to the northwest of here, just a little bit out of view, is up towards Hunter Mountain, North Lake, and the Blackhead Range. It's behind this white pine tree. I'm not going to try to get any closer to that part of the view. But the Catskills have great views to the east. You can clearly see this area from those peaks on the Catskill Mountains. They have great views to the east. The western Catskills are mostly forested with not as many open ledges for your views. We're about out of time. We've come maybe 2 to 2.5 miles from the covered bridge. I can hike it out in about an hour and a half. I'm probably not going to try to do too many more videos at this point, but I'm always looking for these interesting hikes that are lesser known. Even though this is a famous trail, I'm not sure too many people have recorded the natural history of Schaghticoke Mountain. So we'll continue on in the next 4 to 6 weeks with some more adventures in this part of the northeastern United States.